Good afternoon. Hi. We are continuing our discussion on Frank Wilderson, but first, I would like to make some announcements really quick and recap the last class. And after we will be able to proceed and finish with the discussion as usual. Okay, I'm going to put this here. The guidelines for the second assignments are already on CourseLink. You can access it and you can already submit your second assignment. It's for November 30, 11:59 p.m. Of course, you can ask me questions if you want me to clarify the guidelines, and you can submit the first draft of your introduction if you want me to tell you if you are on the right track. This time you have the choice to answer between 5 questions, and it's still 6 pages. Also, you will receive your grades very soon. In 2 days, I have finished grading the papers. I'm just checking a second time to make sure everything is okay. But I'm happy to see that you did a good work, and 2 of you got an A. One of you had an A plus because the introduction was outstanding. The engagement with the text was excellent compared to their classmates, and the whole paper was good. It has some weaknesses, but it's still better than the best of the class. You have also 6 people in the class who are still registered in the group, but they did not submit anything. And for these people, I would say that it's you lost 40% of your grade. Therefore, I strongly suggest that you reflect on whether you want to pursue this course or not. For people who had already made previous arrangements with me, uh, people who have accommodation with me, please wait until Friday to see your final grade for the first assignment, because I have to remove the late penalty points for you. Be patient, it will be there soon. Also, I'm sorry that for the next 4 weeks, it will be just talking about anti-Black racism. And I know it's not really what you signed up for when you decided to study philosophy or political science, but you saw that in the course outline. But the good thing is that you will be able to talk about other elements, because we have the pleasure of having Angela and Alex, who will present a, a talk on Fanon. We have Angela, who will talk about how the media makes the difference between violence and non-violence. And she will use a Fanonian perspective. And for Alex, we will see. Therefore, since they start their presentation at 1:10, it is essential that you arrive in class at 1 on time. And since it's their evaluation, it's 40% of their grade, I will penalize you if you come late. So instead of having 1 point for presence and participation, you will have 0.5 points if you come 10 minutes late or more. It's very important because you interfere with their evaluation. That's why I am so serious about punctuality. Unless you have any questions, we can move on to the next point in the plan, which is the recap. Afro-Pessimism is the book that we are reading right now. Last week we read Introduction, and now we are reading an interview that was transcribed by the editors of the book. And so all the text we will read, except the last one, will be from this Afro-Pessimism book, which is no longer available in paper, unfortunately, but the publishers uh, offer the opportunity for readers to view it online on their website, and you can also download for free the book, which is something I strongly recommend because it's it's a great way to introduce yourself to Afro-Pessimism with these very accomplished intellectuals. We discuss this notion or this idea that Wilderson has, that violence for the Black people is gratuitous as opposed to non-Black people that is contingent or accidental or after some kind of transgression. Violence is gratuitous. Every Black people are vulnerable to violence, whether they transgress a law or not. When whatever they present themselves, uh, whatever the way they dress themselves, they will be perceived as a threat, or and people will be violent with them. Non-Black people will be violent with them. They always vulnerable to violence. And why? So it's not, as we will see in the interview and as we saw in the introduction, violence is not for political or economic reason. Violence towards the Black people. Violence is libidinal. It's made for psychoanalytical reasons, and so it's not for profit or it's not for political reason. Therefore, I just wanted to try to answer the question that was given to me last week on violence when it comes to self-fulfilling prophecy. Self-fulfilling prophecy is when your expectations on some groups come to realization. And so one of you asked me if we can push back Wilderson with this notion of self-fulfilling prophecy. And I'm not an expert on this, but as I understand, you use this notion in social psychology to explain the low performances of certain students, because you have teachers who have some low expectations towards certain social groups. Therefore, they don't pay attention to these students. They don't try to help them. And since the teachers do not help them, do not pay attention to them, the students tend to not pay attention to their work and not concentrate, not focus. And the result of that is that they will have low grades in their exams. And because they will get low grades, the teachers will think, oh yes, I was right. They are not as intelligent as the other groups. But the teachers created the situation that put students to failure. And therefore, I do not see how self-fulfilling prophecy contradict or push back Wilderson, because it's the same way. If you have this idea that black people are criminals or black people are beasts or creatures, barbarians, savages, and then you treat them like that, then because the black people see you treating them like that, they will act like that. They will think that of themselves too. So they will act out, and then you will be your beliefs will be confirmed, and you will say, you see, I was right, they are criminals. But you, as a policeman, you created this situation, and therefore you are responsible for that and not the black people. And the same way, the teachers are responsible for the low performances of these students from social groups that are excluded. So this is how stereotypes affect the life of people. So correct me if I'm wrong in my interpretation, but so self-fulfilling prophecy does not explain why the police generalize this way from one individual to a whole group of to a whole group. So this makes they make this assumption that because this group has the same this person has the same skin color as this other person, therefore we can say that they are the same, and we can have expectations on their behavior even though we don't know them. Therefore, self-fulfilling prophecy to me, does not push back Wilderson. But of course, Wilderson, when it comes to explaining the gratuitous violence, does not use social psychology. As I said, he used psychoanalysis. Secondly, we said that for Wilderson, as he had written in his introduction, the abolition of slavery, the official abolition of slavery, is not a real event. It didn't really abolish slavery in the USA. And other authors that who are not Afro-pessimists said the same thing. You have this emerita professor, Angela Davis, who said that in an article. She said that the government find a way to incarcerate black people and force them to work, forced labor. I'm sorry. Force them to black laborers, force them to labor with the convict list system, which which as she described in the book is worse than slavery, as they put black people to work in some companies. So the companies rent the prisoners to work for them, and they pay that to the government. And they will work these people until their death. They have no laws the prisoners have no regulations to protect them. And when a prisoner die, they call the government, the company call the government and say, this one dies, send me another one. So prisoners are just interchangeable. They are not persons. So this is a convincing article that proves that emancipation was not really emancipation. And you have also Guy Yorat Binder, who used this perspective of philosophy of law to say that since there there are so many interpretations of slavery in the USA, and since slavery is really embedded in the customs of the society, we cannot say for sure that slavery was really abolished just by interpreting the law text. It's a um, it's crucial to make this assumption that you define what is freedom, what is slavery, what is being liberated. Therefore, this is another crucial article that was used by an Afro-pessimist, Jared Sexton, and I strongly suggest you to read that. I put the article on CourseLink, but the first article from the prison of slavery to the slavery of prison, I asked the library to put that in reserve in the CourseLink too, but they have to borrow that chapter from another library. So they have to borrow the book from another library. So there is some delay, but both texts will be on CourseLink if you are interested, as they have been written by accomplished, distinguished professors. Let me see if I didn't forget anything. Yes. Okay. Now we can, if we have no question, we can move on to the book. I mean, the interview itself, the interview for today. The book, um, what am I saying? Yeah. So this was an interview on radio in 2015, made in 2015, and it was transcribed by the editors of the book. The interviewer is not in the academic world, he is a political journalist, but as you see, his questions were very informed, and we can clearly see that he read a lot of Wilderson before doing the interview. Therefore, this interview is interesting. And I forgot to mention last week that Wilderson, even though his ideas are controversial, he is a proclaimed author. He is an award-winning author. He win many prestigious awards. I thought it was important for you to know that. Attends, est-ce que j'ai... Let me see if I didn't skip a slide. Oh, okay. Sorry, I forgot. Yes. So in the interview, we learn again that Patterson, with his book, Social Slavery and Social Death, Slavery and Social Death, was a major influence for Wilderson. So in that book, Patterson compared 66 slaveholder societies over time. It's a sociological analysis. And Wilderson mentioned too that he was and still is influenced by Marx. He never gave up Marx. He was Marxist before being Afro-pessimist, and even when he became Afro-pessimist, he never gave up Marx, because Marx provides a crucial, valuable framework. But you have some problems with Marx, according to Wilderson. Marx, when he wrote The Capital, realized, according to Wilderson, that you have some problems with they have some problems, conceptual problems with slavery and a slave. What is a slave? How can you understand slavery in the Marxist framework? And it didn't work. And Wilderson said that instead of reflecting on it, stop and reflecting on it, Marx decided to ignore the problem and keep telling that the main antagonism is between the person who holds the capital and the person who earns wages. And therefore, injustice is just a matter of discrimination, a matter of reforms, and justice would just be to increase the wages or give more rights to women or erase some discriminations, racial discrimination. And for Wilderson, the problem with Marxist and left people is that they are so oriented towards solutions. And because they are anxious, they cannot stay in the problem. When you follow a Marxist analysis, it's hard to obtain the goal, but you see what is the goal. So it gives you a clear path. Marxist analysis gives you a clear path and clear solution. But when you use an Afro-pessimist perspective, freedom is something that is not really easy to understand. What looks like a free society? What looks like a society in which Black people are free? For Wilderson, the problem is that a society in which Black people are free is a society in which everything is deconstructed. It's an epistemological deconstruction of identities. And this is very scary. I hope I didn't forget anything. No, I didn't. And so violence for Wilderson is libidinal. It means it comes from psychoanalytical reasons. It comes from some kind of urges, energy. It does not come from political or economic reason, as I said earlier. So that's what the quotation says. And so Black people must publicly die, according to Wilderson, or publicly suffer for the society to stay stable. And to say that he was inspired by David Marriott and Jared Sexton, who use psychoanalytical perspectives to understand the oppression of Black people. But we will discuss this later on. It's just I'm giving you the main ideas. But when we will discuss in 3 weeks, I think The Vengeance of Vertigo, we will understand, we will study this more carefully. But I just want you to realize that for him, so violence, he used the Fanon's notion of collective catharsis to explain the violence against Black people. And so for to answer one of you, to answer the question, one of your classmates made last week, if the status or the wealth has some impact on the analysis, is it a moderating factor for Wilderson analysis? So we don't have a complete answer here, but we have an idea where it's going, because as I said earlier, Wilderson never ceased to be a Marxist. So yes, being rich and having a different status in the world makes a difference, but at the end, all Black people are slaves, in quotation marks. And Africa, since 625, as he said in the interview, is a land in which non-humans lives. He said sentient beings, so future slaves or slave, live. So 625 corresponds, according to my memory of this, is when the Arabs traded Black people, trafficked Black people from Africa as enslaved people. I think I have to check. So to clarify, I'm sorry, I thought I heard someone. To clarify the ontology that we discussed last week, so we said that Black people are slaves, Black people are not human, and white people are human. They are not slave and they are the masters. And we have people between these two categories who are not racialized as Black and not racialized as white. And for Wilderson, these people are still considered human, even though they are inferior to the whites. So he called them the junior partner of the white. So this ends my presentation. Actually, all I wanted to say is reiterate what we discussed in the in last week. So it's just we are still in the introduction level. We are not treating empirical evidence. We are just stating what are the theoretical perspectives, which are Marxist, slavery and social death, and psychoanalysis. And Black people are slaves and white people are human. So this is all I want you to remember for this class. And we will finish talking about this interview Thursday. And now we move on to the discussion. Thank you so much.